Reading and managing information is a very messy process, whether you do it through emails or spreadsheets. Sending emails back and forth, trying to trace them down weeks after, or trying to read an unreadable spreadsheet. It doesn't matter. They're all really tiring. An app that can make all that messy information look nice is really what you need. That is where Amazon's new service comes in. It allows you to make your own app that displays information in a beautiful way with little to no cost without coding. And that service is called Amazon HoneyCode. Amazon recently released a beta version, and we'll be using that throughout this course. Whether you're a financial analyst, a realtor, a teacher, a doctor, or just a kid, you can easily learn to use HoneyCode through this course. You do not need to have any prior knowledge, but it would be beneficial if you had minimal knowledge of spreadsheets. We'll go over the basics of HoneyCode, and we'll make a project that will teach you the core of HoneyCode. By the end of this course, you will know what HoneyCode is, you will be able to make an app, and you'll have knowledge that you can use to make an app that is personalized for you and your team in the future. Amazon HoneyCode allows users to manage, add, and store data in a readable and easy way. You can do many things, ranging from event scheduling, customer relationship management, user surveys, to-do lists, content and inventory tracking, or process approvals in a simple and easy way, rather than using difficult and strenuous methods like spreadsheets or email. Rather than struggling to trace and find data, HoneyCode gives a simple interface that is easy to read and understand. Amazon HoneyCode gives every user an easy way to create an app really quickly that is customized to your business or personal use. It allows you to make simple apps that are very interactive for both mobile and web use at the same time. Instead of having to make separate apps for mobile and web use, HoneyCode allows users to create apps for both mobile and web use at the same time in a simple way. HoneyCode is a no-code app building software that is built around an interface that is similar to spreadsheets. For the process of actually creating the app, HoneyCode uses a visual drag and drop editor, which makes it extremely easy to make an app. This powerful service can notify users when something is changed, track data over time, customize the interface for specific users or team members, and update data instantaneously on every screen. Basically, the main use of HoneyCode is displaying data and spreadsheets in a nice and readable way, as well as in a personalized way. HoneyCode makes it so that different screens can be shown to different people. We'll go over this more in future videos. HoneyCode can be used by anyone, not just developers, since Amazon has made it really easy to use. This means that whoever you are and whatever you do, you can easily create an app using HoneyCode. In this video, we'll look at some examples of how HoneyCode can be used. Our first example is a simple to-do list. So on HoneyCode, you can make a simple to-do list for your personal use or your team use. The example we're going to look at today will be for a team use. So let's say that you're a manager of a company and you have to assign your employees work that they have to finish by the end of the week, let's say. Usually you'd send them emails or add it on a spreadsheet. But if you send them an email, it can get lost between the hundreds of emails that come in your inbox. Or if you give them a spreadsheet, it's hard to read on a phone, right? That's where HoneyCode comes in. HoneyCode allows you to make a simple to-do list where the manager can add certain tasks that will be sent directly to the employee only, as well as giving them a custom notification. So this is a screen of an employee. I can see that I have to do these certain tasks. And the manager can add a task and assign it to the specific employee that needs to have that task. That way, the manager can give the task directly to the employee, and the task will not be lost between the hundreds of emails, or it won't be hard for the employee to read. That's one very simple way that HoneyCode can be used to make your business life more efficient. The second example that we're going to look at today is a vacation request. So Let's say that you're a manager of a company again, and people email you asking for a vacation, for time off. Usually they'd email you, right? Or they'll email you or add it on a spreadsheet. But that can get lost just like a simple to-do list. Maybe the manager wasn't able to see it and respond to it quick enough. That's where this app comes in. This app makes it streamlined. The employee can see a personalized screen that allows him to submit a vacation request, and the manager can have a personalized screen that allows him to accept, approve, or reject a request. That way, it is a streamlined process and there is no confusion going forward. Also, you can make a history page. That way you can see exactly how many vacations an employee took and when he took it and why he took it and was it approved or rejected. That way, these vacation requests don't get lost. And HoneyCode makes sure that you can have a personalized screen for each user. Now, let's look at it compared to a spreadsheet. This is what it would look like on your phone for a vacation request. And on top of that, you wouldn't get a custom notification on a spreadsheet. It would be very confusing and sometimes it'd get missed, right? But look, if we look on this app, you can see how the dates are all aligned in an order, in descending order. But on spreadsheets, it's all random. So it's hard to read and figure out exactly when this employee went on a vacation. And that is just two examples of how HoneyCode can be used. In this video, we'll learn about how HoneyCode actually works. There are three main components of any HoneyCode app: tables, builder, and automations. They're present in every HoneyCode app. We're going to learn about what each one of these components are and how they all work together and are connected. The first one is tables. So we learned in previous videos that HoneyCode apps are meant to display data in a readable way. But where is that data coming from? Well, they're coming from tables. Tables is where all that data is actually stored. And that's the main part of your HoneyCode app. It's the engine of your HoneyCode app. All the data is being stored in the tables, and it works just like a spreadsheet. It's basically the spreadsheets of your app. This is where all your data is being stored. And your app basically takes all this data and makes it look nice. So there are three main things that tables can do in HoneyCode: sort, filter, and link your data. So let's actually look at an example of linking your data. Let's say, for example, you own a company in which your company basically goes out to people's houses and checks on their AC every once in a while to make sure that there's no problem. Well, to have that type of business, you have to have a customer list and another table where you have their addresses and what type of AC they have. HoneyCode allows you to link all that together so that instead of searching between different spreadsheets to find out what his address is and then go to a different spreadsheet to find out what type of AC he has and the different data that you need, you can link it all together so that in any spreadsheet, whenever you hover over, and in any table, whenever you hover over the name Bob, let's say your customer's name is Bob, whenever you hover over the name Bob, it'll show you all the data that's linked to him so that it makes your process even more efficient. Basically, tables is where your data is being stored, and it's where the app gets its data from. It's the main part of your HoneyCode app, and there are special features that tables can do. And we'll explore some of them when we're creating our own app. The second component is Builder. Builder allows you to design screens that the user will see. It's a no-coding interface that allows you to make an app without any coding. You can make apps for both mobile and web use at the same exact time, so that you don't have to make a separate app for mobile and a separate app for web. You can make it both at the same time, saving you a lot of time. And one specialty of it is you can personalize and customize screens for users. Because a manager shouldn't be able to see what an employee is seeing, and an employee shouldn't be able to see what a manager is seeing. So if we go back to the examples of the video, the second example was a vacation request. So let's say that you're an employee and you send a vacation request to your manager. Your manager has a separate screen that can see that allows him to see what are the coming requests so that he can approve or reject. The employee shouldn't be able to see that screen because you shouldn't be able to approve or reject your own vacation request. And that's where personalization and customization comes in. So that the person that's designated to see a screen only sees that screen. A person that's designated to see that data only sees that data and is not shown data that he shouldn't be able to see or shouldn't see. So Builder overall is basically where you'll design your app and make all the data in the tables actually look nice. And the third component is automations. One thing that automations can do is add, edit, or delete data automatically without any intervention by you. So if we go back to the vacation request example, let's say you send a vacation request and you submit it. It's going to automatically add a row in the table without any intervention by you. And that allows the manager to see a new request. So it's all happening automatically without you doing anything. And that's one example of automating. Another thing that automations can do, allows you to do, is send and receive notifications and reminders. So whenever you send a vacation request, your manager will get a custom notification, not notifying him that someone just sent a request, so that he can go into the app and approve or reject your request. And whenever your manager approves or rejects it, the employee will get a custom notification telling him whether it got approved or rejected. Another thing that automations allows you to do is it steers users to correct screens automatically. So that, let's say you click a button like submit. Instead of staying on that screen, it takes you to a new screen, like the history screen. So that you don't see the screen that you were just on. So let's say you click the submit button, it'll take you to the history screen or a new screen that says thank you for submitting this form. And that's another type of automation. Automating everything allows you to become more efficient and streamline your work. So those are the three main components. Tables, where all your data is being stored. Builder, where you're creating your app and you're designing it. And automations, which allows things to happen automatically without you intervening. So how do they work together? Tables allows the app to display information, so the builder and table is related in that way. And then whenever something's added to the table, you can send a custom notification. So they're all intertwined. The app receives data from the table. Whenever something happens to the table, you can send a custom notification, which is an automation. Adding, deleting data is an automation. They're all connected. And these are the main components of all HoneyCode apps. In this video, we're going to go onto the HoneyCode website and actually walk through the sign-up process and talk about the things that you'll see when you're on the main screen. So the website's called honeycode.aws. And when you pull up the website, on the top right, you'll see two buttons, sign in and try for free. If you don't have an account, you're going to click try for free so that you can make an account. You're going to fill out all the information that they ask and then click create account. Then you're going to have to verify your email and then you can actually sign in. Since I already have an account, I'm just going to sign in directly and I'm going to put my email and then my password. And when you sign in, it'll take you to the home screen. It's called My Drive. So in My Drive, you're going to see two things, workbooks and apps. Workbooks are like your editors. So it's like where you're going to be actually making your app, making the tables, and setting up automations. The apps are basically where you're going to actually be using what you've created. So we learned that HoneyCode can be used on your phone, and on the website. So if you're using it on the website, you'd use this app. Now, you can search between workbooks and apps. So let's say you have a lot of different projects. You can search up whatever you want and it'll narrow it down. Over here, you can filter out what you want to see, the editor or workbooks, or do you want to see the actual app that you've created? And then the filter so basically HoneyCode can be used by teams. So some apps may be shared by your team and some apps you may have made and shared with your team. So you can filter out what you want to see, whether you want to see apps that you've created yourself or apps that people have shared with you, or you want to see both. This HoneyCode icon on the top left corner is it's like basically the home icon, and it's like the home button of an iPhone. It'll take you back home no matter where you are. And these 4 buttons on the bottom left corner are help, notifications, teams, and profile. So in help, you can search up between documentations for HoneyCode. Notifications is where you'll receive notifications once we implement them. Teams is where you can add people to your team. So you'd click on this and add their email, and we'll go over how to actually do that in a future video. And then profiles is where you can sign out, go to account settings, and access help, community, what's new, and report an issue. So this is basically what you're going to see when you open up the HoneyCode website and you sign in. In this video, we're going to learn about the 3 types of workbooks that we can choose from when we're creating our HoneyCode app. We already know that workbooks are basically our editors. This is where we're going to be creating and setting our tables. We're going to be editing our app in the builder and setting automations. But there are 3 types of workbooks that we can choose from, and in this video, we're going to go over all 3 of those. The first one is called CSV. The CSV type of workbook is for people and businesses that already store data somewhere else. So let's say, for example, you're a business owner, and up to now, you have been tracking and storing data in a spreadsheets, and now you want to use HoneyCode. So instead of manually transferring data line by line into HoneyCode tables, what you can do is download the CSV of your old spreadsheet and upload it into HoneyCode tables so that you can skip that step. And all that data will automatically upload into HoneyCode tables, and you can just focus on creating the interface for your app to make it all look readable. The second type is called templates. Templates are for people and businesses that are trying to use HoneyCode for a common use that a lot of different people use it for already. So let's look at an example. Let's say that you just want to create a simple to-do list for your business where the manager would just upload to-do list and your employee would get a custom notification telling him that the manager just added him a task, just gave him a task. For that, you could use a template because HoneyCode has already created pre-built app interfaces and table formats. So that instead of creating that from scratch, you can actually already use a template and just tweak it for your business use and customize it. That saves you a lot of time if you are using it for a common use. And the third type is Scratch. This is for people that are using HoneyCode for something that a lot of people don't use it for, or something that you want to personalize and customize by a lot. We're going to be creating our app from scratch. That's basically from the beginning. They're not going to give you any table formats. They're not going to give you anything in the app interface. You have to create all of it by yourself. And we're gonna make our project in Scratch so that you'll get a better understanding of how HoneyCode actually works. So now if we go into the HoneyCode website in the My Drive section, and I click on the top right button called Create Workbook, you're gonna see that those 3 options are right over here. Import CSV file, use a template, and start from scratch. So let's look at import CSV file first. If I click import CSV file, and I click copy of lemonade sheet, you'll see that this is already a pre-built spreadsheet. And now when I uploaded it, it's automatically being uploaded into the HoneyCode tables as well. So I don't have to do any work creating that table. If I click on the home button again, the HoneyCode icon, it'll take me back to home. Then I click on create workbook again. The second type is use a template. So let's actually look at the simple to-do list. If I click on simple to-do list, you can see how it automatically opens up a pre-filled out table for simple to-do list. And if I go into the builder, I can see that there's already an app that has already been basically made. The interface has already been made. And if I click on view app, I can actually already start using it. I just have to customize it for my use, and we're all good. If I click on the home button again, and we look at the third example, which is from scratch. If I click on create workbook, the third one, start from scratch, this is where they've given you nothing. You start from the beginning. They've given you no table formats, and when I click on the builder, they've given us no apps. So you can see how we're basically having to start from the beginning if we're using the scratch type of workbook. If we're using templates, they've already given us a pre-built app interface, and they've already given us formatted tables. And if we're using CSV, you can skip the step of making tables if you already store it somewhere else. So those are the three different types of workbooks. Import CSV file, use a template, and start from scratch. In this video, we'll look at the project that we're actually going to learn how to create in this course. So we actually looked at an example in a previous video of this project, but let's actually look at a thorough walkthrough. The app we'll be creating will allow the employee to submit a vacation request to his manager, and the manager will be able to approve or reject that vacation request. So let's see how it's all going to work out. If I'm the employee, I'd be able to pick my name, and since I'm the only person in my team right now, I can only see my name. But if you had more people in your team, you'd see their names as well, so that they can pick their name as an employee. And for the purpose of this course, I'm going to assume that I'm the manager and I'm an employee, so I'm both. So if I'm acting as the employee, I'd pick my name. I'd pick the start date that I want, so let's say August 13th, and then the end date of my vacation, so August 14th, and then description, well, I am going to North Carolina. Now, if I click submit, it'll take me automatically to the history page, and I can see that a recent request just got added, and it says pending. So you can see how it basically gives me all the previous requests that I've made and whether they were rejected, approved, and the current one that's pending. And it is all ordered in descending order, so it's more organized. Now, once I submit the request and I go to the manager's app, I can see that there's a custom request on the pending screen for the manager telling him that there's a new request and he can approve or reject that request. If the manager decides to, or before we actually look at that, we can see that the manager got a custom notification telling him that the new request has been added so that he can go onto the app and check it out. If you were doing this on your phone, you'd also get a custom notification on your phone. So I can mark this as read, and then let's say I approve his vacation. Now, if I go to history, you can see how that pending, the request that was pending has now been approved. And if I go to vacation request, I can see that I got a custom notification again telling me that my request has been approved as the employee. And I can mark this as read, and I can see that the history page has now been approved instead of pending. So basically, we're going to create an app that makes this vacation request process more efficient than emailing or writing on spreadsheets. In this video, we're going to make the first part of our app, the tables. Remember, the tables are the engine of our app. So we're going to create the data that will be displayed on our app. So let's go to the top right, click the button that says Create Workbook. And since we're going to make our project from scratch, click Start from Scratch. It's going to take some time to load. And then once we get in, click on the home icon. And then right-click the project that you see, which is called Untitled right now, and click Rename. And let's rename it to Vacation Request. So that once you make a lot of apps, you'll know that this one is for Vacation Request. Then click back on it so that we can go back to the tables. Now click on this tables icon right over here, and right-click the section that says Table 1. And rename it to status. So we're going to make two tables, so it'd be beneficial for us to rename those tables so we know what each table is for. So we're going to rename the status because our first table is going to be the statuses that may be possible of any vacation request, which is approved, pending, and rejected. So let's delete everything except for one column because we only need one column. And let's rename this column to status because this is our status column. Now there are three things that can happen: approved, rejected, or it could still be pending. So we're going to write those 3 things. And then now let's go click on tables again and let's add a new table. Add a blank table. Remember, go back onto the tables icon and rename this table so we know what this is for future use. Let's rename this vacation days. Or remember, they can't be any spaces, so vacation days. And now what we're going to do here is we're going to display all the data that would be displayed in the app. We're going to write all our data right over here. So basically our app is going to pick the data from this table and display it. So basically we want this table to display who wants the vacation, so the employee's name, when he wants to start the vacation, when he's going to end the vacation, what's the status, whether it's approved, rejected, or pending, like the table we created before this table, and why he wants to go, so the description. So we're going to need 5 columns. The first column was employee, so let's rename this to employees because there may be more employees on your team. And then click on the first one and click formats up here. When you click formats, this little section will pop out, and so basically what we're gonna do over here is click on auto and go to the very bottom and select contact, because the employee is a contact. And basically what contact is everyone that's in your team that you've added, and we'll learn how to add people in to your team in the future, but everyone you've added, whenever you select the format as contact, you can see their name and email as a list, and we'll actually see that. So now click apply, and whenever I click the arrow down, now I can see that I have my name and my email because I'm the only one in my team right now. But if I had added more people, I would see other people. So if I had Bob Jeff in my team, I would see his name as well. So let's make some dummy data so that we can display it on our app first. So the name employee is Umang Vinayaka. Our second column is for the start date. So let's rename this to start. And if we click where we're going to start typing for our dummy data and we click formats and we go back to format column as, we can see that if we scroll down, there's another type of format called date. And the start date is a date. So if we click apply, and now whatever date we put, so let's say we say 6, or let's say I want to go to vacation for Christmas break. So I'm going to say 12/15/2020. And you see how it automatically formatted itself to a date, because we made sure that this column will format itself as a date. Our third column is also a date because it's the end date. And so we're just going to do the same thing we did for start. We're going to click formats, change this to date, and click apply. And then let's just keep on adding to our dummy data. So let's make this 12/25. So I'm going to go for around 10 days. And then for column 4, this one is going to be what our status is, whether it's pending, whether it's approved, or whether it's whether it's been rejected. We already made a table before this one. So here we're going to link the 2 tables. And that's one really big specialty of HoneyCode. You can link different tables together. So if we click formats again, and instead of auto, we scrolled, the third one actually, it's called row link. And then the next thing is set source type. So we're basically linking 2 tables together. And our source type is a table because we're linking those 2 together. And what table is it? Well, it's status. And good thing we renamed it so it's easy for us to pick status. Now if we click apply, you can see how that there's a downward arrow. Now whenever I click on it, it's picking up that table and showing me the options. So now I can just pick one of these 3. So if I pick rejected, now I can see how the rejected status has been applied to this dummy data. Our 5th column is our description. This is basically why our employee is going on vacation. And we don't need to do any formatting because on auto, it's basically plain text. So we can just, for dummy data purposes, we can just write something as to why I'm going to vacation during Christmas break. So I'll be like, I am going to visit my family. So we just created our first dummy data. We have our employees, and we made sure this is contact. Our format's contact, so that If we have more people on our team, you'll be able to see them as well. Our start date, which our format is date, so that whenever you write something, it'll format it to the date. Same thing with end. Our status, we row linked it, so we linked this table to another table. So we can just pick the options from that table. The description is why we're going, and this is just plain text, no formatting at all. Now, let's make some more dummy data so that when we're creating our app, we'll be able to use all of this to display. Now we have basically created our tables. And we can delete this last row because we don't need it right now. So we have 4 rows. Our first row is our titles, and we have 2 tables. One's the status table, and one is the vacation days table. And we've linked the 2 tables together, and we've got all the data we need. Now we just have to make our app and make all those automations happen. So whenever someone adds a request, it'll automatically add a row in this table. And for some reason, this last line went away, so I'll add it back. So I am traveling to Arizona. And when I click enter, then I'll delete this row really quickly. And we are good. So in the next video, we'll go over creating our app using the builder. In this video, we're going to make the vacation request screen of our employees app. Basically, this screen will allow the user to submit a request. Basically, it's going to ask for the employee's name, start date, end date, and description. And automatically, we're going to make it so that whenever he clicks the submit button in our form, it automatically adds the status as pending. So let's go to the builder. We can see that there are no apps right now. So let's click the plus button, click build your own, and it'll automatically make an app. Now we just have to customize it and personalize it for our use. Click on builder again. Let's rename our app. So vacation request. And let's rename our screen name. Vacation request. And let's rename our screen name tab because we'll have multiple screens. Because for the employee screen, for the employees app, there's going to be the vacation request screen and then the history screen. So it's good to rename it. Okay, now we can actually create what we want to do. So in summary, we want to create a form where it asks for the employee's name, start date, end date, and description. And when you click to submit, it automatically adds it to the table. So we click add objects and we can see a list of things that we could add into our app. Well, we want to add a form. So we click on form. Now we have some options of what type of form we want. There are 2 placement types, button plus form screen and form and current screen. The difference here is button plus form screen is where on the screen it'll just show you a button. And when you click that button, then it takes you to a form. But form and current screen means that it automatically just shows you a form on that screen and you don't have to click a button to access the form. And that's what we want. The next thing is add form data to. Well, we want to add whatever data we get from here into the vacation days table because we have 2 tables, status and vacation days. We don't want it to add to the status table. We want it to add to the vacation days because that's like our master table. This next part is what should the form ask? Well, we want it to ask what the employee's name is. We want it to ask what the start date is. We want it to ask what the end date is. But we don't want it to ask what the status is because obviously when the employee first clicks the submit button, it should automatically insert it as a pending status because it can't be approved or rejected instantaneously. So click the X mark next to status, and we also want description. So these are the 4 things that we want our form to ask. When you click create, it'll take some time to load, and then it'll basically show you how it's going to look. If we click view app, you can actually see a demo of the app. So you can see how it's asking for employee, and then you can select a contact start. You can select the date, end date. You can select a date, And then description, you can edit the value and why you want to go. But I'm going to customize it a little bit to give you a better understanding of what HoneyCode can do. So I'm going to move employees above the employee content. So it'll be like that. And then I'm going to basically make it take the whole screen horizontally. And I'm going to click on the employees content box. And a content box is basically where you can insert text that will be shown on the screen. And then I'm going to fill the color. So I'm going to fill the text box as blue. And then over here, this is called a data cell. Data cell is where basically the user is going to be able to enter in data when you make it editable and you make it a variable. And over here, you can see how in add objects, you can add a custom data cell. But when we added a form, we don't need to add separate data cells because the form basically gave us everything we need. So in the data cell, we're basically, and the display is also a contact. So basically it's going to give you a list down menu of the team members that you have. And just like our table, our vacation day table, our employee column also had a format of contact. So it'll just give you that drop down menu. And a data cell basically allows the user to enter in data if you make it editable and you make it a variable. So I'm going to do the same thing for start date. So start date, I'm going to format it above start like that. And I'm going to drag it horizontally to take the whole screen. I'm going to change the fill color to, let's say, green. And then same thing for end date. And then drag it across the screen. And then change the fill color, just like we did for the other two. Okay, so now that we did both of the dates, let me show you what this data cell is. It's still editable because we want the user to pick a date. And it's a data cell. You can see how it says data cell. And if you go to display, you can see how now the format's a date. Because in our table, we also formatted the date columns as date because that's what it is. So that's why it gives the user an option to pick from a calendar. And we'll see that when we're giving a real demo of what we just created. And then I'm going to do the same thing for description. So I'm going to put it above, just like we did for everything else, and spread it horizontally. Change the fill color to, let's say, yellow. And the description data cell is auto because just like the vacation days column of description, it was auto because they just have to enter in text and there really is no format. So now if we click View App, you can see how now it makes it look a little more personalized, and you can select the contact and it gives you a drop-down menu. And the date, it gives you like a calendar where you can move across months and pick the date you want. Same thing for end date, and the description you can just type in. Now we don't need a cancel, right? Because what is the cancel going to do? There's nothing that we want the cancel to do. So we can just delete that button. We only really need a submit button. So I'm going to rename the done button to submit. And I'm going to drag it across the screen and make it like a bigger button. Okay, so now let's see how it's all entering into the table. If we click submit and we click on actions, we can see that there's a button called edit automations. If you click on edit automations, and wait, if you remember automations, it's basically the things that are happening automatically. And one thing we talked about that was an automation is automatically inserting data to a table. And that's what we're doing here. We're basically taking all the data that the user fills out and inserting it to a table whenever the user clicks submit. So that's what this part is here. We want to add a row to vacation days table. And basically this is what we're doing. We're taking data from this data cell called employees content and writing it to the employees table. So I'm going to duplicate this website so I can show you. And I'm going to go to the tables in this one, in the vacation days table. Okay, so basically we're taking this data cell, whatever the user picks as his name, and adding it to this column right over here. The next thing is we're taking the start date that he picks and adding it to the start date. We're taking the end date and adding it to the, we're taking the end date and adding it to the end column of our table. And we're taking the description and adding it to the description part of our table. Okay, now we're missing one thing in our table, and that's status. Because automatically the status should enter in as pending. We don't need to ask what the status is to the employee. So when you click add another, instead of taking data from this form, we want to take the data And we want to basically automatically insert it as pending. And if you remember, we created 2 tables. So if we go back to tables, you can see we have 2 tables, status and vacation days. And in status, we have the 3 types, approved, rejected, pending. So what we want to do is take the pending row of the status table and automatically insert it into the vacation days status column. So we want to take pending here and automatically insert it to the pendings to the status column of our table. So what we're going to write here is equals find row in all caps. So we're going to find a row in the status table, and it's called, and this is how you're going to write it. Status, so you're going to write the table name, then comma, then quotes, table name again, and then in brackets you're going to write the column name of where we're getting it from. And if we go to the tables and we go to status, you can see that the column's name is also called status. So I spelled status wrong, so I'm going to fix this really quickly. So status, and then in brackets, we're going to write status because that's also our column name, end brackets, and then we're going to write equals. So what do we want to find? So we're going to equal, and then percentage, and then quotes, comma, quotes, pending, end quotes, and the end parentheses already there. So what we're doing here is we're finding the row in the status table's status column, and we're basically finding pending in that column, and we're going to write it to, we're going to write it to what column? We're going to write it to the status column because that's the only column remaining in our vacation days table. So now if we click out of it, you can see how we have set up our automations. And basically what we did here now, what should happen is when we click the submit button, it takes all the data that the user filled out, so the employee's name, start date, end date, and description, and it should automatically add it to our table, our vacation days table, and it should automatically insert a pending into the status column. So let's click view app and actually try it out. And let's see what happens to our table. So employee's name, our employee's name, I only have one team member right now, so me. And then let's say I want to go to vacation for December, for Christmas break, so December 22nd. End date, let's go to December and make it December 25th. Description, it is, I need a break. Let's say that. I need a break. Okay. When we click submit, you might think nothing happened, but let's go to the table and see what just happened. Let's click on the vacation days tables because everything should be added there. And you can see how there's one row that just got added. Umang Vinayaka, 12/22/20, 12/25/20, pending, I need a break. And we just did it. We made it so that whenever we click the submit button, it automatically adds a row in this table. And the employee's name is whatever we picked. Same thing with start date, same thing with end date, and it automatically picks pending, and the same thing, and it picks whatever you wrote as description and adds it here. Now, why didn't anything happen here? Why is it on the same screen? Well, because we never told HoneyCode what to do when we click the submit button, except add it to the table. In future videos, when we create other screens, we'll make it so that whenever we click the submit button, it'll automatically take us to the history page. So that instead of staying on the screen, you'll actually know that you submitted it because it'll take you to another screen. But right now, we have basically accomplished our purpose. We made it so that every time a user fills out information and clicks the submit button, it automatically adds a row into our table. In this video, we're going to make the first screen of the manager app. This screen will allow the manager to approve or reject a vacation request that the employee has sent. So go into Builder. Let's make a new app for the manager. So build your own. Rename it to, I'm going to rename it to Manager. And then the screen name, this screen is going to be for pending request, so pending request. And then the screen tab name is going to be pending request because just like the employee app, there's going to be a history screen as well, so it's good to rename it. So pending. Okay, now we can actually start adding our data. So click on Add Objects, and we're going to use a stacked list. Just like a form, it's going to give us an option of where to get the data for that list from. Well, we don't want it to get it from the status table. We want to get it from the vacation days table. And just like the vacation request, we don't need to ask for status. I mean, we don't need to show for status in this one because obviously the status is going to be pending until the manager approves or rejects it, so we can X out status. So we only need to show employee, start, and a description to the manager. When you click create, it's going to take some time. It's going to format it. And if we click view an app, you can already see that it kind of shows you a list of everything. So this could be, so right now it's showing you everything, not only pending, but it's also showing you approved and rejected. But we only want to show pending on the screen since this screen is for pending. So to do that, we're going to click on the list that we just added. And then it's instead of set source from vacation days, because that's a full table, we want to set the source from, we only want to show the rows that have pending in the status. So to do that, we're going to filter out vacation days table. So we're going to write filter and then parentheses and then the table name, so vacation days, and then comma, quote, again, the table name, so vacation days, and then we're going to write bracket. So now we're going to write the column name that we're getting pending from, so status, and then equals. And what do we want? Well, we want pending. So we're going to end the quote first and then start another quote, pending, end quote, start quote, and then, so that's the first part. We're basically making it so that now we're only going to see the things that are pending. The second thing we want to do is make the pending requests listed in a descending order. So it's easier for the manager to read and like prioritize the things that are needing to be prioritized. So we can say order by vacation or vacation days. So the table vacation days, and then we want to order it by the start date. So we're going to write bracket start date, or start, because that's what our column name was, and then write DESC, which is descending. And then click enter just to make it sure it's saved. And now if we click view app, or we can refresh this website, our demo app, we can see that now there are only 2 options, and these are the only pending requests. Instead of those 5 that were like, it was showing everything, even approved and rejected. Now we can only see pending. The last thing we want to do is kind of format it a little better. So let's click on list first and get rid of the search button because we don't need search. So now that we got rid of the search, we can get rid of the employee content box, the start content box, the end content box, and the description content box. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to make this whole we're going to make the name a little smaller, and we're going to make this whole segment a darkish color. And then we're going to make the start date a little smaller than it was, and then move it up into next to the name. This is the end date, but what we want to do is make it so that it says start date dash end date. To do that, we can just delete this end date and add another data table in this content box. Because remember, a content box is where text is displayed, and data cells allow us to get data from the tables. So we're going to write dash, and this is already a data cell, this first one, and we're going to put another data cell here. So click on the data cell object, and then click on the data, and we don't want it to be editable. We just want to display data, right? In the previous one, it was editable because we wanted the employee to edit the data or edit the date. We don't want that to happen. So we're just going to go to date and equal. And what do we want? Well, we want to show the end date, the end column of the vacation days table. So we're going to write equals bracket end. Since this list is only showing vacation days, since we already made that in the beginning, we can just write equals end because we already, like, HoneyCode already knows that everything we're doing here is already from the vacations table. Now it's going to save a little bit, and then you can see that the date kind of uploaded. And I think it didn't save, so I'm going to click on it, and it didn't save, so I'm going to enter it again just to make sure that it saved, and I'm going to click enter to make sure that it's saved. And then once it's saved, I can click out of it. Okay, next thing is the description box. So I'm going to click on this segment and make it a little lighter color, but not exactly white. And then let's make the description a little smaller because we still need to have the approve and reject. Okay, now if we refresh this, you can see how let's refresh it again because we made the description a little darker. So you can see how it looks pretty good, but now we need 2 buttons, approve and reject. For that, well, we're going to go into the add objects and click button. The first button is the approve button. So I don't want it to be in this right now. I'm going to take it out a little. Or actually, I'm going to delete this button and then come out into this and then click add button. So it's going to add it down here. Then I'm going to make this button smaller. and I'm going to change the text to approve, and we're going to change the fill color to the same color as the description box or something near it. And instead of approve being white, like the text color, we're going to make it like dark or green, because approve is usually represented in green. Now we just need one more button, and then we can just format, and then we can just set automations of what to do when that button is clicked, just like we did for the employee vacation request. So replace this with reject, because that's the other option. Change the fill color to a lightish color. So let's go with that. And then let's change the text color to red, because reject is usually represented in red. Okay, now we can just drag these buttons and add it right over here next to the description. And now if we click, or if we refresh this website, it already refreshed, so we can see that there's an approve button and a reject button. Now we just have to basically set an automation of what to do when these buttons are clicked. What we want to do is when someone clicks the approve button, we want to change that pending status to an approved status in that exact row. So we're going to click add actions, and then we're going to say update or overwrite, overwrite data, because that's what we want to do now. We want to overwrite the data. So we're going to click overwrite and then take data from. Well, we just want it to go into the status table, because just like pending, we want to go to the status table, get approved, and replace the pending. So we're going to write equals find row. So now, just like last time, we're going to go to the status table first, then comma, then quotes, then status, so the table name again, and then bracket status, end bracket, equals percentage, quote, comma, percentage, and then rejected, and then end quote, and parentheses. So what we did here is basically just like we did for the button for employee request. Instead, we're now replacing it with rejected. So we're going to find the row that says rejected in the status table, and we're going to write it to the status column in vacation days. So status, and in vacation days. And that's it. Now we've got the reject part. Or, I mean, oh wait, my bad, we did rejected here. It was the approve button, so we need to change this to approve. And it was approved in the table, so we have to change this to approve. So we have to, instead of rejected, we have to change it to approved, because what we did here is whenever someone clicks the approve button, we want to make it approved, not rejected. Now we go to the reject, or actually we can copy that action that we just did. So we can edit automation again, and then copy what we just did here, because we only need to change the approved part. Go to reject button, and then click create automation, click add action, overwrite data, and just like approved, we're gonna, but instead not approved, but we want to change it to rejected. And then write formula to, well, just like the approved button, we want to write it to the status in vacation days. And you don't need this, you just need status. And we can make it so that you write equals and then bracket status, like that. Okay, now we enter it to make sure it's saved. And then once it saves, now we know that we have created our pending request list. And we can actually see that happening. So if we go back to our app and we refresh it, these are the two pending requests right now. One is 1222 to 1225. I need a break. And you can see how it's in descending order right now. And if I click approve, it automatically went away, because now instead of pending, it's approved. And remember, we made it so that this list only shows pending. So now if we go back to that table of vacation days, you can see how instead of pending now, it's actually been approved right here. I need a break, 12/2 to 12/25, approved. And there's one pending still left. And now we just created the pending request page for the manager. We're going to create the history screen for both apps. So let's go into Builder and let's make it for one, and then we can just copy and paste it in the other. So let's go to Manager and click the plus button next to Screen, and you'll see that there's a new screen that's been added. Let's rename it to History, and rename History, and then rename the screen name as well to History. just like we made the pending request page, in pending request, we added a list. This time we want to add a list too, but this time we don't need to restrict whether it's pending or not pending. We can show everything. So let's click add object and click stacked list. So over here, we don't want to get the data from the status table. We want to get the data from the vacation days table. And we don't need to X out status here because we want to show whether it was approved or rejected. So this way, on our history page, we'll be able to see who wanted the vacation, when it started, when it ended, was it approved or rejected, or is it still pending, and why was he wanting to go, or why is he going. So if we click create, it's going to obviously create it. And then let's disable the search box because we don't need the search box here. Delete the employee content box, the start content box, the end content box, and the status content box, and the description content box. We're just going to format it on the screen just like we did for the manager pending screen. So let's make the employee name a little small. Or actually, before we do that, we should first filter this out a little bit, because even though we want to show all of them, we still want it to be in descending order. Otherwise, it'll look all randomized and jumbled up. So we're gonna write filter and then this and then the table names of vacation days. And then instead of then finding a column, we're just gonna write comma, then straight to order. Because we don't care, we want it to show everything. So we don't want it to narrow down and only find things that are either pending or approved or rejected. We want to show everything no matter what the status is. So order by, and then vacation days, and then bracket start. So just like we did for the manager pending screen, we just want to make it in descending order. And that's what we're doing here. Okay, and click enter, and then if there's a blue dot, it probably worked. Now we can just format all of this to make it look nice. So let's put the name content box a little smaller, and then let's make the date content box smaller. And then let's move this up. Let's move this content box up to the name segment. And then just like we did for the pending, we're going to write a dash and then add another data cell. And we're going to make the content box a little larger. And then we're going to write equals end date, just like we did, because remember, it already knows that we're getting it from the vacation days table, so we can just write end. And then we're just going to click out of it. And then if you want, you can click on this content box and move it to the corner and make it right aligned. Next thing we need to do is delete this end content box because we already added it. This is the verdict, whether it's been approved, rejected, or is it still pending. So we can make the table, we can make the content box a little smaller and move it up. And then the next thing we want to do is the description, so move this up as well. So description. And then the last thing we want to do is just make the fill color changes so we can make it look a little bit nicer. So we can change it to a little darker color. Same thing with this one. And right now we added it in the same segment, so it's all going to make it so that the content box is colored. We're not going to make the whole segment color, otherwise they're all going to look the same. We could have added it in another segment, but I'm going to show you a different way, and that's why we are putting it all in the segment. And that's it. We just created the history screen. That's how easy it was. If we click View App, and on the top, if we click the history screen, you can see how it literally gives us everything we need. The employee name, when he went, why he went, and was it approved or rejected. And we can see that there's also the pending. We can also see whether it was pending or whether it was approved or rejected. So we can see everything that we want to see. And you can make this right aligned if you don't like approved there. And that's all formatting, so you could do that if you like that better. And now we can just copy this history page. So let's just Control C. So be on the history tab, Control C, and then go into Builder, click on the other apps, a vacation request, and actually just Control V. And you can see how there's a new screen called History Copy. Now if we click View App in the vacation request screen, you can see that there's also a history page that looks exactly the same in the employees app. In this video, we're going to finish up our app. There's one thing remaining, and that is automations. We want to make it so that whenever we click the submit button, not only does it add the data into our tables, but it also sends a custom notification to the manager telling him that a new request has been added, and it takes the employee to the history screen instead of staying on the same screen. Also, what we want to do is whenever the manager approves and rejects a request, it sends a custom notification back to the employee telling him what the verdict is. So we're going to go to Builder, and first we're going to make automations with the Submit button. So scroll down, click the Submit button, go to Actions, and click Edit Automations. First thing we want to do is notify the user, so we're going to add an action and click Notify. We're going to add the email of the manager, so it's going to be my email in this case because I'm acting as a manager as well. Subject, we could write new request, and then message can be a new request has been added. So basically what we just did here is whenever someone clicks the submit button, it's going to show us a notification right over here, and it's going to give you an email telling you that a notification has been added. Now, the next thing we want to do is whenever the submit button's clicked, we want to navigate the user to the history screen instead of staying on the same screen. So we're going to click on navigate to previous screen and change previous screen to history copy. And that's it. If you didn't have navigate to previous screen down here, you can click add action and click on navigate. But since I already have it here, you won't be able to see it. But let me show you what would happen if you couldn't see this. So let me delete this navigate, and then if I click add actions, I can pick the navigate option, and then I can do the same thing that we just did. Select screen, history copy. So now whenever we click the submit button, it's going to add the data to the tables. It's going to send a notification to the manager, which is me in this case, and it's going to take them to the history screen. So let's actually try all that out. Let's put some more dummy data really quickly and fill this out. So employee me, because I'm the only one in the team right now. Start date, let's say August 1st. End date, let's say August 3rd. And then description, I need to go to a wedding. And then if we click submit, it'll automatically take us to the history screen. And since I'm the manager, it gave me a notification telling me that a new request has been added. So you can see how the notification system for the first app is working. Now we need to make the notification system for the second app also work. So we're going to go back to Builder and click on the second app, which is Manager. And then click on the Approve button first. Go to Actions, Edit Automation. We're going to add an action, and we're going to add Notify. But over here, since you might have more people in your team, you're going to want to make it so that whoever's request the manager actually approved, it's only going to send an email to that person. And to do that, there's a custom thing that we can put. We're going to put equals $bracket employee column data. So basically, whoever the employee was in that request, it's just going to send an email to that person. So subject, well, it's going to be request has been approved, because if the manager clicks the approve button, it's going to be approved. And then message, you can just write your request has been approved. And just like that, you're going to do the same thing for the reject button, because we don't want to make it so that it sends it to only one person, because you might have more people in your team. So it's better if you make it so that whoever the manager accepted, it only sends an email to that person. So click notify, equals $, employee column data, subject, request denied, and then you can write your request has been denied, and then click out of it. And now let's try it. Let's see what happens when we try it out. It should all work now. We have completed our app. So now we see that there's a new one. I need to go to a wedding. When I click approve, do you see how I got another notification telling me that your request has been approved, because I'm also the employee in this case. So basically, it's working. Whoever your employee is, whenever the manager accepts it, it'll send it to only that employee. And whenever the employee submits a request, it'll send a notification to the manager. In this video, we're going to learn how to add people to your team so they can share specific apps with them. On the bottom left corner, click Teams. If you want to rename your team name, click the 3 dots and you can rename it. But I'm just going to keep the same team name, and when you click on it, you'll be pulled up to this screen. Over here on the top right corner, if you click Add Team Member, you'll have the option to add the team member's email and determine whether he's a member in your team or an admin. And then once you determine that and you click Invite, it'll send him an email basically giving him an invitation to join your team. And when he accepts the invitation, it'll add him to your team. Now, once he's added to your team, you want to add him to a specific app, right? Like, let's say, for example, the vacation request app. Let's say he's your manager. You don't want to give him the employees app. You want to give him the manager's app. To do that, click on the HoneyCode icon and hover over the app you want to share with him. So, like, let's say he's the manager. Click Share, and then you can add the team member's name and click Update, and it'll only send him this app. And that is how easy it is to add people to your team. Basically, HoneyCode is a no-code app builder that allows users to make apps to display data in a beautiful and readable way without any programming knowledge whatsoever. There are 3 main components of all HoneyCode apps: Tables, Builder, and Automations. Tables is where you're going to store your data. Builder is where you're actually going to make your app interface. And automations are the things that happen behind the scenes to make your app actually work. HoneyCode apps can be used by teams to streamline and make your business process even more efficient. You can make personalized apps for specific people of your team, just as we saw with the project that we created today. HoneyCode apps can be used on 2 platforms. You can use it on your laptop or web-based, or you can download the HoneyCode app and use it on your phone. When you download the HoneyCode app and you log into your HoneyCode account, you can see all the apps that you've made and have been shared to you on the same app. That way you don't have to keep downloading multiple apps, as you can just access all of them on one app. Thank you for watching this HoneyCode course, and I really hope that you learned a lot and you can use the knowledge that you've gained for future uses.